Smelo, schmande,
het
schmade,
is Ja.
Smell you, smorny. Smor, smaking, smor, smar. Spetsmena, smor, smor, smere. Smeen to be small, smelly, small. Wacht. Waarom moet ik wachten?
Nee, doe maar.
Ah,
Begin maar.
hallo. Het is 28/12/2024. Dus technisch gezien heb ik nog 3,5 dag om te lezen. But I'm gonna continue in English actually because I've done all of them in English.
Oké, dus dan deze ook in het Engels, hè?
Yeah. Anyways, so technically I still have 3.5 days to read stuff, and I'm in the middle of a few books, so I might still finish something, but I was in the mood of doing this right now. I also haven't got my storygraph wrapped yet, which my partner thinks is ridiculous. She thinks it's ridiculous to have like a Spotify wrapped for your storygraph wrapped, but I think it's the coolest thing ever because it gives you all your stats. But I do know some of my stats. I read 51 books. And my average rating is 3.5, which is about the same average rating that I usually come out with. I did notice that I became a lot more stingy with my 5-star reviews. Like when I got back into reading a few years ago, I would be giving 5-star reviews way more like, oh my god, it's gay, like, oh my god, it has a plot and a twist, and 5 stars. And now I'm just like, wow, this is the most incredible piece of literature I've ever read, and it's changed my brain chemistry forever. 3.5 stars? And it's like, it doesn't make sense, but anyway. So, tutti bookies. Also, my most read genres are LGBT, because on the Storygraph that's a genre. Gay is just a genre, and it's my most read genre, followed by fantasy, graphic novel, and poetry, which is on brand. Where is my thingy, majingy? My thingy. Can you see me?
Yes, I can see you. The battery is empty.
Oh, fuck. Well, when we hear click click, that means that it's turned off, and then we have to get the new battery.
You also have 18 minutes of storage.
I don't think I'll be talking for 18 minutes, but I might.
17 minutes now.
Can I do 51 books in 17 minutes? Only time will tell.
I mean, if you can do 300 books in a year.
Yeah, okay.
You can do 50 books in 17 minutes.
So, the first book that I read this year is How to Wash Your Heart by Banu Kapil. And I gave this 4.75 stars, and I don't really remember it very much. So, but at the time, apparently, I was blown away by it. Then I read Feelings, A Story in Seasons, which is a graphic novel by Manjit Tap. It's fine. It's literally like if a book was the definition of 2.5 out of 5 stars, it would be this one. Then I read Passages by Marta Verschaffel, which I really, really loved because it has ants and abstractness and doesn't make sense, and video games imagery. 5 stars. Then I read The Amusement, Brecht Evans, which was disturbing. Then I read Van Roken ga je dood by Thijs de Smet. That was fine. I read Vel, Sabine Clement, also fine. Then I read Oh by Zaida Hashembeck, which was good, but also didn't stick with me. Then I read Babel or Babel. There's a bit of a, like, I've heard every pronunciation. I've heard Babel and I've heard Babel. And I've heard Bubble. I don't know which one is the one. By Arif Kwang. This was very underwhelming. The pacing is shit. Like, for half of the book I was like, when is this going to be not a snooze fest? And then suddenly, like, about halfway through, like some action started to happen, and then all of the really exciting bits are towards the end, and I'm just like, the pacing is shit. And also the writing isn't that good. Like people are calling this phenomenal, and it's really popular, and is a really popular author. I haven't read anything else by her, but it's not excited me enough to like make me interested in her work at all. Then I read Homebody by Theo Parrish. It's a cute trans graphic novel, which is a slate. And I read Skip by Molly Mendoza. This is another graphic novel that I really loved. I gave it 5 stars. Then I read Shifting the Silence by Etel Adnan. I thought some of it was poignant, some of it was pointless. Then I read No Man of Woman Born by Anna Mantel. It is right here in a stack that happened to be over there. This is a collection of short stories about trans characters. All of the main characters are trans in some way, and that's great. I love that for them and for me. Then I read The Prince and the Dressmaker, which is another graphic novel by Jen Wang. It's very, very cute. Then I read Weather by Jenny Odell, which I randomly picked up from the library and ended up surprisingly good. Then I read Calling a Wolf by Kaveh Akbar, which really blew me away. This is one of those that I should have given 5 stars, but I gave 4.75 because I'm just like that now, I guess. Then I read A Psalm for the Wild Built by Becky Chambers, which I heard a lot of good things about. It's supposed to be like the ultimate coziness book to like make you feel all fuzzy and warm inside and hopeful for the future. I didn't necessarily feel that way, but I can see how some people do. Then I read To Be Thought If Fortunate, also by Becky Chambers. It was fine. Then I read The Witch Boy by Molly Knox Ostertag. It's also a graphic novel that's on the table over there, but I can't be arsed to get it. It's very cute. My partner is on it.
Which one?
The Witch Boy.
The Witch Boy.
I just
Coming
really,
right up.
really like graphic novels a lot. So I want to read them all the time, but they're so expensive and the library doesn't have that many of them. Was literally a dragon. Library doesn't have that many, especially not the queer ones that I want to read, but buying them is really an investment. Then I read The Principles of Uncertainty by Maya Kalman. She's a Zionist, so that was not great. Then I read Salto and Uba by Wilbert van der Steen, which is this Dutch graphic novel series or like comic series. They're all very short, about this gay couple. It's okay. Then I read Genderqueer, a memoir by Maya Kubabe. Yes. Then I read Pilgrim Bell, the other poetry collection by Kaveh Akbar. I gave this one 5 stars because I was like, actually, I love this. So yeah. Then I read Magnolia Mulan by Nina Mia Powells. This was really, really sweet, and for like, I felt like it's contemporary poetry that doesn't fall in the trap of like it needs to be about this most dark, traumatic, gruesome things ever to be worthy and poignant and relatable and relevant poetry, which I thought was refreshing. Yeah. Then I read Self Portrait as Othello. I gave this 2 stars not because it's bad, but because I'm stupid. Then I read Bloom by Kevin Panetta. This was fine. I read also the part 2. I don't really remember much about it. I read Onyeka and the Academy of the Sun, which I liked fine, but not enough to continue with the next book in the series. So I left it at that. And then I reread Night Sky with Exit Wounds for like the 3rd time or something in my life. Then I read A Secret of Birds and Bone by Karen Millwood Hargrave. She's one of my favorite authors. This one was not the best I've ever read of her, but still very enjoyable and engaging. Then I read Both Can Be True by Jules Machias, which is about a dog and being gender fluid for kids, which is cute. Then I read Strong Female Character by Fern Brady, which was triggering and also really, really funny. And then I read The Secret of Haven Point by Lisette Autumn. I had higher expectations and hopes for this one, so it was a bit of a letdown, unfortunately. Then I read Sarah or the Existence of Fire by Sarah Woods, which is the same story. It had been on my wish list for a really long time, and then it had just like built up in my mind about how good it would be, and it wasn't that good. And then I read Snapdragon by Kat Leigh, which is a super big sleigh. I love the art style. It's gay. It's about animals. Then I read Zonder het licht te breken by Amina Belov, which was sweet and nice. Don't have that big of an opinion. Then I had read Lonely Castle in the Mirror, which I incidentally read while I was burnt out and not going to school. And it's about this kid who's not going to school for a really long time, and like about how she's struggling with that and repercussions and all of that, staying at home every day while your peers are going to school like they're supposed to. And I was just like, wow, the way that is me right now, you know? So I felt connected to the story in a way. Then I read Amari and the Great Game, 4 stars. Amari and the Despicable Wonders. I read immediately after because I was really into it, and I also gave that one 4 stars as well. Then I read I Heard Her Call My Name, which is a memoir by Lucy Sante, who is a trans feminine author, and it's just about her like realizing she's trans and coming out when she's like older, and like how that's impacting her and her family and her career and all that. And then I read Grand Tour, which are poems by Elisa Gonzalez. They were fine. I don't know. They didn't blow me away. Then I read With My Back to the World, poems by Victoria Chang. I read Obits a while back, and I think I gave it 5 stars. It was really, really moving. These were also very good, but I felt like the strongest ones were in the beginning of the collection. In like the first parts, they were all very good. I wanted to keep reread them and be like, wow, like every sentence is just really a masterpiece in and on itself. But then the next ones, they all kind of blur together. Um, it was kind of like saying the same thing with different words, but not in a way that I care about it still. So then I read Too Bright to See by Kyle Lukov, which is a trans middle grade novel that really warmed my heart. And then I read In the Shadow of the Wolf Queen by Karen Millwood Hargrave, which is her most recent book, I think. Not her most recent, but I think the sequel has already come out, so that's her most recent one. I haven't read the sequel yet, but I want to. Then I read What Willow Says by Lynn Buckle. This had a lot of names of trees and nature things that I just had to look up, but didn't because I was sick and I didn't have the energy to look it all up, but I didn't actually know what those trees looked like. So I was just reading descriptions of things and being like, sure, there are sure alders in a row, but I don't know what they look like, so I can't make a mental image of it in my head. So it was kind of went over my head. And then I read Different Kinds of Fruits by Kaya Lukov, because I liked the other book so much. So I read something else by the author, and it was also great. And then I read Wrong Norma by Anne Carson. Took a while with this one, I recall, but I thought it was inspiring. Then I read Spinning by Tilly Walden, Slay. I read The Last Wish by from The Witcher.
Yeah.
No.
Yes. We read The Last Wish
Here she
by
comes.
The Witcher. Not by The Witcher,
Not
but
by The Witch.
by Andrzej Sapkowski.
The Polish guy.
Yes, the Polish guy.
and it was full of magic and wonder
And misogyny.
Mr. Misogyny.
Misogyny.
Mr. Misogyny.
Thing is, I said I would never read this because my friend was really into it, and I opened it and it was like she boobied heavily with heavy boobs with her big breasts into a room, and she was a female, so they all pointed at her boobs and said, "You have no rights other than to make me satisfied
Honk,
with
honk.
with your sexuality." That was basically what I saw in it, and I was like, "This is just trash," and it is.
But it's kind of lighthearted, magical stuff, right?
The thing is, we read this together, so I enjoyed it.
Like, I really wonder what you thought of it besides the misogyny.
It's fine. I think the pacing
not
is
great,
the pacing isn't great. They take too long with some scenes, and then the action is not all that exciting.
No, I agree. The action, like, is poorly written, which is sad for like an action-driven.
For a fantasy book, that
character.
is really a flaw.
Like, yeah.
Over 1 million copies sold.
Now on Netflix.
I read the reviews of this one immediately after because I know this is popular, so I was really curious what people had to say, and it was just mostly people going, "Wow, this was so good. Geralt was such an interesting, fascinating character to be."
What
like.
Most of the girlies said is, and Geralt is handsome, and I won't take that back.
Yeah, and some of the girlies were like, "Geralt is hot.
Geralt is fucking hot, and I won't take it back.
I would fuck him. Good for you." Then some of the reviews agreed with me, like, "Wow, it's so misogynistic, it's so sexist. What's this?" Anyways, I did read it, so there's that.
And I did read it too.
Then I read Alone in Space, which is a collection of shorter graphic novel tales by Tilly Walden. And at the end of the collection, it has like a lot of like one-page comics that she made a while back when she was like in school and stuff. I thought it was interesting to like get a bit of an idea of her style development, but other than that, it's not very cohesive. Then we're at the end, folks. I read yesterday. I read My Lesbian Experience with Loneliness by Nagata Kabi. And I thought this was really, really honest and really raw and really relatable and funny. And currently, I'm reading Vespertine by Margaret Rogerson. I really like her other novels because they tend to be lighthearted, standalone fantasy books. So I started reading that, but I'm not far into it. And I am also reading Foxheart. Foxheart, is that the name? Is that the name of the title? Hello.
Yeah, I think so.
By Claire something something.
Fox-hearted.
Let me see. Reading it on ebook. Then yeah, Foxheart by Claire Legrand. How far are we into this? We're 19% into this, so not far either. And that's it. I read a little bit in If We Were Villains yesterday because I was bored, and I was just curious because when I read this a few years ago, I gave it 5 stars and I really liked it a lot. But I don't think it holds up. I don't think it's that good. It's a bit cringe. But you know, live and let live, I guess. Except die because it's about murder. But that's it. Bye bye. I don't feel like I did a good job. Because I wasn't being funny.
You did amazing, sweetheart.
No, I wasn't being funny. I need to do it again and say funny things about everything.
So what funny things do you want to say about everything?
No, I just need to have like funny one-liners about all the books. but this time I just said like
I thought you
the problem. See, the problem is
I thought you They Boobily Boobied, a classic. That's a classic.
yeah, she breasted breasted
Yes,
to the room.
that's a classic. You'd knock the audience out with that.
The problem I think is that I read a lot of like good books that were fine and had good elements, but nothing that really stood out in like either the department of exceptional or exceptionally bad. Except for maybe this because it's misogynistic and I can say that. But that's it. I guess I just have too good of a taste, you know? I guess.
That's a funny place to end it.
Yeah. That's amazing.